Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ujima Wednesdays. This month, we are exploring time banks and mutual aid with a special focus on their history and role within working class neighborhoods and communities of color. So today we got public assistants here, DonChristian Jones and Nene Severe. And I'll just speak a little bit about public assistance before we get started. Public assistance is a mutual aid network, design lab, and resistance hub that was founded in June 2020 in response to the COVID-19 pandemic and global socio-political uprising. During this workshop, we will gain insight into mutual aid and how community initiatives can foster well-being and resilience. DonChristian is a multi-hyphenate artist, musician, director, and founder of Public Assistance. Jones has shown and performed in spaces such as the Whitney Museum, MoMA PS1, New Museum, Berkeley Museum, and many more. Much of their work today is informed by their time spent painting murals on Rikers Island with incarcerated youth. As a rapper, singer, songwriter, and producer, Jones released Where's the Smoke, named by Forbes as one of the best hip hop albums of 2018. Side note, one of our other directors loves your music. And then we're going to move on to Nene. Nene Severe has worked in arts-related spaces, nonprofits, and creative agencies. She is a writer and program associate at the Public Assistance, Inc. Additionally, her current focus is geared towards executing several community initiatives and publishing her first children's book. Welcome to you both. The floor is yours.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
For that great intro. I think if we could just ask that this is a very casual engagement, and anytime we're speaking with you, have any questions, by all means, raise your Zoom hands, chime in the chat. We're actually in our studio, our workshop right now, so there might actually be some folks that come in and out or move behind us. We actually have another public assistant next to us working, who I want to introduce really briefly. This is Morgan. But Morgan's working really hard on a lot of our website stuff and just a lot of graphic design help. So is here working collaboratively in the space.
Yeah, nice to hear and see all of you.
Hopefully this is just a very casual convo, and we're going to show some images because I think it's easiest and most fun to kind of tell this story in image and moving image. So I will just bear with me as I try to share my screen the right way. Okay. Oh, I don't want to give it away. Okay, can everyone see this? Yes, thumbs up. So we are public assistants. You got 3 of us right here, but there's an abounding source and network of other public assistants out in the world. And thank you, Sierra, for so graciously reading our bio a little bit, but I'm gonna ask Nene to kind of read it again.
Sure. Public Assistance is a mutual aid network, design lab, and resistance hub. Public Assistance is a community design lab and media production studio working to counter systemic inequity and neglect with solutions guided by creativity and collaborative community-based art making. Founded on June 6, 2020, as an organizing base in response to the COVID-19 pandemic and global socio-political uprisings, PA has led and partnered with dozens of community initiatives since its inception. Among them, an annual youth mural residency to empower and employ young persons through public art making, a 20-hour community medic training series, a free bike repair and refurbish initiative, a community fridge and garden, toy and coat drives, hot meal and care package distribution events, and wellness workshops, including auricular acupuncture and apothecary. Predicating all of this hyper-local programming, our interdisciplinary team of artists, makers, organizers, and builders strive to design, produce, and fabricate just about anything.
So it's a lot, it's a mouthful, and trying to explain what we do is very hard. So we're just very grateful to have these opportunities to kind of expound on all the things. So we started here in Brooklyn in 2020, really at that crux of socio-political strife, the beginnings of the pandemic. None of us had jobs. We were scared about rent, how we were going to make it. And then there was a lot of protests on the street, and we were trying to figure out ways to support one another through that really hard time. Was fortunate enough to be gifted temporarily a vacant lot in Crown Heights, really at the epicenter of the gentrification there in Crown Heights on Franklin Ave and Park Place. And it was a almost 7,000 square foot abandoned, well, it wasn't abandoned because it was still owned, but laundromat, methadone clinic, pawn shop, and a commercial lot in the back that had just been laying vacant and blighted. It was overgrown. There were rodents. For about almost 3 years, it was sitting there. We knew one of the property managers, and they saw all of the organizing efforts we were doing at the time, and they let us hold on to the keys, really in hopes of just providing us a space to paint some of the signs and banners. And we took a picture of a tip jar one evening. It was the night we got there, June 6th. Did a survey of the space on Instagram, held up this tip jar, and we asked our community on Instagram, help us get this place cleaned up. And then we woke up to our Venmo with like $4,000 in the morning. And we realized that we had tapped into something that people were feeling they could contribute towards. And for the next 4 consecutive months, we and others showed up every single day to paint the walls, transform space, feed each other, paint banners. And within those first few weeks, we just started covering all the walls in murals. So this is one of the first that we did on the side. And it was an open call to the neighborhood, what y'all really want. And we had chalk hanging on strings for which people could write their ideas for their community, whether they be programmatic or project-based or services that they needed. We also put up these to-do lists on a chalkboard that we found from Joe's Pub. And every day in the morning, we would write down our list of to-dos and hang and put them outside our door, just for this added layer of transparency and visibility for passersby, anyone that lived on the block, to see who we were, what we were up to, and if they wanted to engage with us. This is what it looked like when we found it. It was a well-known and well-respected or utilized laundromat that had gone defunct. I'm unsure of why they left, but neither here nor there. We ripped out all of the wires, the live wires. We pulled out the ceiling. We painted the walls and made it like walkable. Like you couldn't really even walk through it. It was such a safety hazard. Did a bunch of carpentry to transform and create some kind of program out of the space. More images of before. And this is after. I kind of jumped the gun because we started in the lot, really. Yeah. Before we got inside, we were really left to our own devices outside.
That little space, that pocket space. Which
we'll show you in a second. But that's where we were doing a lot of our painting. And once we got inside, we had this wealth of resource, of space, of working walls. It was a little bit, once it started to get colder in the fall, we had a place to set up heaters. There was no heat or hot water. We relied on the donations from community, and across the internet, people began sending us tech and appliances and machines and painting and drawing materials, sergers and sewing machines and iMacs and iPads. And it really, the limits, there were no more limits as to what mediums we could work within, or the kinds of people we could serve, just because we had such of this resource. Like I said, we started painting murals all over. So we tapped a bunch of our artist friends, muralists, graffiti artists, to come and just kind of enliven the space. And that first summer, we began what was the first of our inaugural youth mural summer internship, residency rather, where we paid hyperlocal youth. It was 12 that first year, 17 an hour for 4 weeks to research and design and fabricate a mural of their choice. That's the top right image. We also, our beginnings were really rooted in the street and these actions. So before we were even painting murals, or had full access to that space, we were painting signs and banners and protest sets in community gardens and warehouses in Brownsville. This was for the Defund the Police March that had happened in the beginning of that summer. This is our dear friend Jasmine, who was painting a Black Joy is Radical banner in our lot. Images from the Black Women's Liberation March, for which we did a full protest set that had 2, we call them road blockers, these really long banners that stretch across the street and block traffic, and handhelds, about 40 handheld signs, and 10 portraits of Black women lost to systemized violence. These are the portraits on the bottom. This was the set we made for the Black Trans Lives Matter March, which amassed nearly 20,000 people at the foot of the Brooklyn Museum. And our banners went on to lead this march, made the front of the New York Times. And this really changed or heightened our visibility and that of our peer groups, networks, organizers. This font, which we ended up using a lot, which was just a taped out font because of just the urgency with which we had to get things done, we would just block out letters in painter's tape and just paint them really fast. So anyone could come to site, whether it be a kid or a grandma, and they could just fill in these taped out lines. And then we'd have a full protest banner ready. And this font actually became a downloadable open source typeface that a local queer print shop made, which was really exciting. And I feel like that embedded us in this moment of history and allowed for our work to extend in more accessible ways so anyone could access this language. It's a banner we did really on the fly for Glitz and an action that they were leading. This one was, and these are essentially, these are full-on community commissions. And when we do this work, they're made pro bono to, or at least sliding scale, but most often they're just pro bono to fellow orgs or individuals that need the work done. And we're doing development along the way to ensure that we can provide those free services. So this was a donated banner for that march that they get to keep and house or take out into the world whenever they want to. This is another one we did. We just kind of started, making banners even when there was nothing to make a banner for. This went on to live a bunch of places and was used in several marches. Right, this was taken at Weeksville Cultural and Heritage Center, for which we worked with them a bunch. And you can see the wear, like the level of wear, like this has really been used a lot. And that is what excites us most. It's less about the aesthetics and beauty in what we do. It's more about like function and impact. This was for the bike march on July 4th. It was an anti-Independence Day rally on bikes, for which we made a bunch of these crossed out 1776 flags and gave them out to bikers. And this is just some more photography from that first corner spot that we had, and we held on to it for nearly a year. And the nature of that relationship with the landlords became kind of fraught and a little contentious because they wanted their keys back and we didn't want to go. And our neighbors didn't want us to go. So we had it was a tough transitional time, but part of the ethos of public assistance is that it's not rooted in a physical space. It's something that can be anywhere. It's something that anyone can implement or facilitate in their own life or community. It's virtual. In our minds, anyone can be a public assistant, and it's not so tethered to like the shell of that first headquarters, which we grew to love, but inevitably had to leave. More images from that first youth mural summer residency. And you can see that first cohort, all of whom were, well, actually, aside from like 2 of them were from a 5-block radius. So they would just come to work every day, hope it wasn't that much like work. And they would draw and talk to each other and share ideas and write poems. A lot of writing exercises would infuse or inspire their designs. And then they would get up on the wall and paint. This is from last year, our 3rd summer. So we've now done this 3 consecutive summers. And last year we actually did 3 wall sites across Brooklyn. One in Brownsville in partnership with University NYC, which is an incredible mutual aid, food justice and food sovereignty org. And 2 others in Bed-Stuy. This is on the left, that is our dear friend Vash. She was an incredible artist and muralist facilitator. And these are images from our celebrations when we get to unveil them and make a party out of it and invite the community and celebrate the youth that put in such sweat equity and really put skin in the game. That first mural, I didn't put an image of it in its entirety, but it's called Evaporate into Happiness. And it's a mural about gentrification and police harassment. All of the youth were Black and brown. There was an immense conversation around stop and frisk and how all of them had been stopped and frisked multiple times by the age of 15. The central image is a figure inspired by Tamir Rice, shooting a water gun into the sky, and the water droplets form the words "evaporate into happiness." There's also a wounded Black Panther, a Black Panther that's on the left side that bookends either side, and he's crawling off out of the right side with an arrow. A coffee shop that says $7 coffees, and sky rises, towering into the sky with a monster of gentrification. The imagery and the imagination that abounds from these youth is beyond anything we could have created ourselves. And just like really powerful, so charged, so political. A lot of conversation was spurred by that mural in particular. A lot of people with heavy critique, mostly gentrifiers. And we also started to like figure out ways that like murals can leave the wall, or protest signs can be used in other ways. So then we've dabbled in like set design and production. So this is images from a Juneteenth event at Weeksville, and a love altar designed by Jasmine Hayes, and a photo booth. So it was an altar kind of dedicated to Yemaya, for which people could sit in front and take pictures. This was a really beautiful day. If I'm
Yeah.
jump in anywhere if you want.
This is part of our refurbish, repair, and basically public assistance was giving away all these bikes that had been donated. I think there was probably like over 200 or even more than that. And remind me of this person's name?
Elijah.
Elijah was like the main facilitator and person helping to repair these bikes. And we just gave them away. We didn't ask for anything in return. And it was a really beautiful moment, especially for me to witness, because a lot of us don't have bikes and are also not able to afford to purchase bikes, especially in New York City. So it was a great way to get people on the ground, get people moving. A lot of people use them in marches and to meet up with other people, and also just as another way to get out of the house during COVID and exercise.
That was one of when we did the mural, What Y'all Really Want, so many people were just writing bikes, or I need a bike. So that was this thing that we didn't imagine we would ever be doing. Like none of us were really like bike specialists. We found Elijah, a dear friend of ours, and he found some friends that did know how to fix bikes. And before you know it, people were sending us bike parks, if not full bikes, from California and Hawaii. We bought a lot of 40 bikes off Craigslist for $1,000. Took them apart, refurbished them, and people could get on a waiting list to receive a free bike, prioritizing women of color. We gave out over 80 fully refurbished bikes and serviced a number more. This was us picking up the bikes.
This is one of my favorite community initiatives. This is our acupuncture and like wellness clinic. One of our dear public assistants led it, and yeah, I'll keep going. Basically, over like the course of 4 days, people received about 20 hours of community medic training, and they were talking about herbalism. They were talking about how to engage with somebody on the street if they need medical help, and I think we did a 4-part series on this, but it's something we definitely would want to bring back, especially just in general, to have more community trained medics on hand.
We did 2 iterations of this, and they were 3-day, 20-hour trainings each. And I think in total we trained 25 community medics. With no formal certification, but they learned bullet wound tourniquet application, Narcan administering, CPR, I personally learned so much in this workshop.
This was Crown Heights' third annual, I think, tote and coat drive for the community, and public assistance organize, fundraise, the ability to raise money for coats and toys.
All new.
All brand new, and we serviced over about 83 families. And I think we also included the hot meals, door-to-door service, and also turkey distribution.
That's right. So we've done several of these distro events, whether they be holiday focused. We've done door-to-door turkey deliveries. You know, and we would just flyer around Brooklyn, the Queens, the Bronx, and people could sign up to have a turkey delivered to their door the days leading up to Thanksgiving and the day of. And for that, we just made a carpool, and there was like 5 of us in our cars driving all around every borough. For the toy and coat event, we designed out the space in holiday themes and had hot cocoa and all these fun things for kids to enjoy. It was also like really perplexing and incredible, the level of, I mean, we did all of this in COVID. We did all of this in COVID, and we never had we never had a what's the word? Like a
Variant or possession.
no, I mean like an outbreak. I don't know,
No, not at all.
not within our
Oh,
Our community, no.
yeah.
Ooh.
and
Impressed.
this is when it gets fun, it's real fun. All right, so given we have all of these artists and creators and makers and fabricators, digital lab, Adobe Suite, graphic designers, printed, the capabilities to print. We realized that we were like a full-fledged production studio or house in our own right, with donated camera equipment, lighting equipment. So we've done a bunch of photo shoots for the community, video shoots. We've done some PSAs, one for MPD 150, defund the police PSAs, and some editorials like spreads, print and publish. So this was a spread we did for Paper Magazine, where we got to just celebrate all of our neighbors that had made us who we were. Styled ourselves, shot ourselves, casted ourselves, shot all our neighbors, edited ourselves. Everything we do is in-house. And there's a thing that we just believe, like, there's nothing we can't do because of our community. There's always someone that knows someone that's a pro. So this is like an example of like just how resourceful and scrappy we were for that first year. Like, I mean, we're battling, rats and running around and live wires and stuff, but we would set up these active photo shoots in our garden. That's another thing to mention. We erected, that's like it in its very beginning stages, but 2 raised beds. We had a community fridge that was always accessible to our lot. So that was another, like the bikes, the fridge were like our biggest programs. Like that, those are the things we realized.
Those were ongoing.
Quick that we had the greatest impact. And there was the most need for it.
This is like when the community decided to reimagine a Little Kim's video.
Oh, that's right. This was like, and thinking about this spread this was for actually Interview Magazine. They made us guest editor, and we had a 4-page spread. They wanted to have several public assistants had this deep urge to recreate the Lil Kim Crush on You video. So it was all Black trans folk that led in its art direction. But that was super fun. This is also from Interview. This is a performance by Jasmine and Mope that was documented by Jake Robbins, and Jake is really our main documentarian, has shot everything from day one in photo or video. So this is a performance that is then shot that was then used in the spread. This was a poem by the photographer Wolfgang Tillmans, who's German. But just finding ways in which to connect virtually across community, cross-culturally, intergenerationally, create as many bridges or tethers to other people doing the work, and to just open up these vacuums of conversation. So we were really fortunate to just have all these people create original work and submit them for this spread. We called them the Black Pages, and that was the summer of 2020.
Oh.
You want to talk about
I'll
that?
start. This was part of public assistance project with the MoMA for JAM's recent exhibition there, and Don drew and came up with this entire zine and put them together at our partner residency program, Eureka, which is based in upstate.
So this is an example of a more like, I guess you could call it a commercial or institutional, as are the spreads with like paper or interview, like partnership or collab. But it's like this work, this resonated because of the history of JAM as a Black art collective and all that they've done for the art world. And it felt like a worthwhile partnership. And it's the kind of stuff that will help us to sustain in taking these kind of commercial gigs. But it also, they become like Skillshare moments. You know, we're learning how to use new materials, or this was done on a risograph, which we now have one ourselves. So we can print high volume. This was a holiday zine we did for the Black Feminist Project in the Bronx this past winter, where we had extensive like meetings with just back to back, talking about what a holiday zine for Black women that was sex positive and all inclusive could look like. So this was all hand drawn and printed. And we do like wheat pasting, you know, like if people approach us with an idea and they don't have the funds or they don't have the resources to get it done, likely if we have the capacity, we will do it for you. And we've gotten into clothing design and merch as another means of sustaining. Like everything we produce or are to sell, it goes right back into our general operating. But this was a limited edition line of hoodies with this cool topographic emblem that we created, and that is Morgan, who you met earlier, modeling them, and partnered with a local embroidery shop. But now we don't have to do that because we have our own embroidery machines.
This is our Black tar tee. And these are other public assistants, Jasmine on the left and Mercy on the right, modeling them.
The newest of our merch.
On our website.
And this is some images from a teaching residency that we were lucky enough to go on this past fall. It was called the Ben Wigfall Residency in Kingston. And we got to work with local youth up there, youth artists, to help produce their own show. So we were there for a month and we cycled in and out different artists or facilitators on our roster, whether they be performance-based or printmaking-based or drawing and painting. Each week we'd have new visiting facilitators, and these amazing youth at the Draw Kingston put on their first group show. And this is an example or just an image of our radio, because we also launched a radio station that was 24/7 live broadcast that first summer. And the radio player lived on our website. We just didn't really have the infrastructure to keep it going, but it's something that we are going to bring back very soon, and it'll be community-led radio. The show slots will be filling up shortly. Should any of you on this have an interest in hosting a radio show, we are more than excited to hear about your ideas, whether it be musical, talk radio, politics, pre-mix stuff.
Yeah, also Don and a couple other members started a podcast called The Wash in summer of 2020. We still have 2 episodes that are streaming if you care to listen.
And this is us today. We've since occupied 3 spaces now. And we finally have a new home that feels secure and long-term and sustainable. And this image on the left is the front of shop. And we've been working the past 2-3 months to do all of the renovations again in-house. This is what we want it to look like. And if I could turn my camera around, you would see just how much we've done. But we laid concrete floors ourselves, put up walls, done all the carpentry, built-in shelving and tables. And it's just like with each project we take on, we gain this new knowledge. Like now we know how to lay concrete floors. Now we know how to do shelves. And I'm gonna leave you all with this, which was one of the commercials we made when we first got evicted and had to fundraise to find a new home. But I think it's still really relevant. Because we got a lot of development that we just gotta always be doing. But again, we rely entirely on the kindness of our community that keep us alive.
Hey there, I'm DonChristian, Regional Manager here at Public Assistance. You might be asking yourself, what's all that movement you got going on over there? Well, the answer's simple. We simply gots to go.
We built this from the blighted shell it once was. Filled it with laughter, creativity, and hard work. But who we are isn't defined by the physical space we use. Take it from me, Brian, Regional Manager at Public Assistance.
We've been without heat and hot water all winter, and as Regional Manager at Public Assistance, it's my job to ensure a warm working environment for our team.
You're probably wondering, how is everyone a regional manager? Well, here at Public Assistance, we work horizontally.
We made a ton of friends along the way.
Unexpectedly, some enemies.
Why is there a devil? I don't like it.
Moving is our top priority right now. The landlord gave us 30 days. It's giving like 2. The sooner we can move, the sooner we can get to working.
Got a lot of bikes to give out this spring.
And a garden to plant.
And don't forget about the painting.
Wondering how you can help?
It's easy. We're raising money on GoFundMe to secure a new space. Follow this link.
And if you can't donate, that's cool. Share our GoFundMe. Help us get to our bag.
Hey, you know of anyone with any wild and crazy space? Send them our way. We're looking. We love our neighbors. We love this community. We want to keep it what we started. That got us this far.
There's public assistance in the future! Wow, that was amazing.
Thanks. I know I talked a lot. Sorry.
Somebody has questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. Maybe we can first of all, does anybody have reflections, words of affirmations? That video is amazing. I see a bunch of claps. Mary said, "We work horizontally has me dying." Love the commercial, says Natasha. Wow, love that, amazing, powerful. More that's amazings in the comments. So I guess Gio, do you want to hop off mute and ask your question?
Of course, thank you. And really raising up a couple of the compliments I mentioned earlier about the beauty of people power and community alternatives for justice. I definitely caught the note. Was it a mural of Yemaya, or was there a temporary shrine in a certain space? I just wanted to clarify that.
An altar photo booth.
Okay, altar photo booth. Thank you so much. So my questions in response to the work. How do you stay in contact with all peoples that interacted with your resources at some point?
I think it goes both ways. We definitely have a email list. We're very active on social media, and we've been making a huge effort to stay in contact, either by sending emails from like our team account, or just like checking in on people, because like public assistance is so personal. So we basically know everybody, and even if they know someone else, we're always checking in on one another. So whether we're not in a physical space, it's usually online, or it could be on FaceTime. We've had plenty of Zooms on our own. We've had meetings in other spaces. So we've just made a conscious effort all the time to stay connected, preferably in person.
It's a really great question, and I think it's actually one of the leading challenges of this is like trying to quantify what it is we do, or create some system, and so much of that kind of like reporting type analytics like makes it like diminishes the vibe or something. But we all know the importance of like just like transparent and ongoing communications, making this so that it's not cliquish, that it's not, that it really does feel like egalitarian. So much of what has got us here is the people that continue to show up, but there's also like no resentment had for anyone that was like a part of that first year and then had to fall off in the second year, because we just understand the tides of life so well. I would say that the core group that really like manages the day-to-day programmatically and project stuff are those of us that have the free time and ability to still prioritize this. So I feel just very lucky that I'm one of those people. But yeah, and I think also Instagram and social media is our main way of communicating. Like, and I know that that's not for everyone. So we're also trying to diversify like across email blasts. We're launching a Substack so that people can subscribe to our published media, whether it be written in the form of writing, video, image. But yeah, the newsletters and email is really important.
Thank you so much. And to our facilitator, do I have permission to ask one more follow-up? Okay, cool. What is the criteria and commitments needed to be an organizer with you all? That's not for me personally, but I'm curious about like, how you yeah, just like the pipeline from like, oh, I got acupuncture here once, and now I want to fix your ceiling.
Really, that's another challenge, but it's a hard question. I want to say there's no criteria other than leading with love, being anti-racist, being pro-LGBTQ, being pro-trans, being pro-indigenous. And yeah, and having like the deep desire to undo respectability in all settings, as I think that's like a predicating factor and force within white supremacy and systematic violence globally.
Thank you so much.
I see Elise in the chat. I love all that. Okay, Isabel, you got a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys for sharing. That was all amazing, super inspiring. So I've worked on a community fridge since like 2020, and I'm curious what have been your challenges in terms of like, like I've noticed like a lot of drop off in terms of like engagement since that like this first year, and like how you've kind of like, I'm trying to like grapple with like this like new kind of challenge of like bringing people more back into the fold of it, when like mutual aid work in general in those first year was like people are super excited about it and had the time, and now it's that like it's a kind of different space, and I'm wondering like how you've kind of dealt with that, and if that has been a challenge for you as well.
It's been a huge challenge. I like the simple connectivity between the pipeline of produce to the city, or within the city, and the connectivity between distribution efforts has fallen like apart in major ways. And I think most of that has to do with the world attempting to go back to some semblance of normalcy, which we have to continue to fend against. When we got kicked out of our first spot after that first year, we had to donate our fridge to another site. But we are still in touch with all of those initiatives. I remember the last we were working with them was to make a more comprehensive and accessible map citywide, where people could go online, find out where the nearest fridges were, if they were stocked, which ones needed to be stocked, like that kind of stuff. And the hope is once we open up in the next month or so, we get our fridge back. It was like in 2020 though, it was so visibly a need. Like our fridge would start overflowing every morning and it would be empty by the end of the day.
Thank you, Isabel. Does anyone else have any questions? James, you got a question?
I don't. What should we look forward to from y'all in the future? Did you already answer this already?
Not so much.
Yeah, I'd love to hear about that. What's the next for y'all?
Thank you. I would definitely say everything you saw in the deck, just bringing that back and having more workshops, especially like community medics, like things we've only been able to do once. I don't know if you saw it, but we did have a hot water training system workshop, which we would love to bring back. So that, community medic, acupuncture, basically all the community workshops we've had already, the community fridge, radio show. We're working on a Substack, and yeah, what else?
Print and publish. I think, every time we were displaced and gotta find, and or are without space, and we're working out of satellite spaces, whether it be a community garden here, someone's art studio in Bushwick, we kind of have to take new shape each time. So the scope of our programs change. You know, like all of our bikes are still in a storage unit in the Navy Yard right now. So these are things that maybe and hopefully we will return to. Right now, the space that we have leased and are really happy with is an old dry cleaners. We went from a laundromat to a dry cleaners. And we're building out the facade now and getting a new awning and everything so we can be like hyper visible to the community. But it's gonna, you know, this footprint is much smaller. There's less it can hold. In our fabrication in the back of shop, we have embroidery machines, textile stuff, 3D printer, inkjet plotter to do larger prints, a risograph to do mass printing and color and beyond, painting wall, massive painting walls and work walls, our film and lighting equipment. It's really just a production house. I'm really excited about the print and media stuff and being able to like print flyers and books and zines and bind books for community members. Community archiving, like digitizing family albums or documents. Anything you could do on a computer or what could print on paper or paint.
Small gallery showings too.
Yeah, it's a convertible gallery. The front of the storefront is going to be our radio room and gallery. So when anyone walks by, they might be watching a live broadcast or watching a poetry reading. There's a poetry writing workshop series that is going to be one of the first programs we launch. We invite anyone, if you're ever in Brooklyn, come by.
Definitely. And I know we're at time, but I also was curious, what does like partnership look like for y'all?
Like the logistics of, or like the feeling?
Or like organizational partnership.
What'd you say?
Like how do you guys partner with other organizations usually? What does that look like?
Usually
Or the other like yeah, other peers, other yeah, I'm just curious.
I think definitely a meeting. Like,
well, how does it usually start? Like, how do we get contacted?
Through email.
Usually through email or DMs.
Yeah.
I would say it's equal. Like people DM us, and then we try and get that conversation out of the DMs and into emails so that one of the five of us can respond to it. And then we take it from there. It's usually several meetings, whether they be virtual or we have you come interface in the shop. Back when we had the full shop running in Crown Heights, like people would literally walk in off the street and we had like, you know, like a waiting room, you know, it was very like, it was like a vibe, like, and you could consult with one of us. And that's what we're trying to get back to. And in consulting with us, you're like presenting your idea, and then we're figuring out how we can implement that idea. We're figuring out who's the best artist or the graphic designer that is great for your project. Who's the audio engineer that should record that for you? Who is the sign painter? Who is the seamstress that can reupholster your couch? We've done all of those things. Legal aid, we've guided people to the right immigration lawyer or what have you. So it's really that public, like off on the street interfacing and encounters that feels incredible, but also super willing and receptive to an email.
Thank you. Gio says, feels like the grounds for a long-term time bank. Amazing, yes. Fertile ground for a time bank for sure. It looks like we have one more question and one more comment. So this comment comes from Lise. The work y'all have been doing is so inspiring to hear about, especially the way y'all set up the spaces and the arts creation and design. I agree. This is just reminding me of the power of culture in all of the work that we do as organizers. So one more question, Marian asks, can you share more about what it means to undo respectability? And Marian, if you want to add more, you can unmute.
That's my favorite question.
Oh yeah, I've just never heard that language, and I was just curious what it meant.
That came about over the years, just in working in community deeply. You witness the ways in which people show up, whether they be youth or older people, older persons, or houseless or what have you. Like we come with so much, carrying so much, and most of the time none of us have any idea what that other person is coming in with. And I think respectability politics creates this framework or expectations for us to present in certain ways that are really rooted in white supremacy and white sensibility. And when we're working in cross-culturally, you know, like the way someone talks, like their slang, their manner of dress, like those are not things that should ever be held against them. And what is proper, what is deemed proper etiquette or professionalism, like notions of professionalism, like are so rooted in respectability politics. So I think a lot of our work, since it is creative based and like we're trying to have social impact through like collaborative art making in most everything we do, we try to infuse some like aspects of joy, radical joy finding, and like and humor and levity amidst grief and hard work and strife. So it's like being funny and sharing memes or creating new memes or using colloquial language because that's how our community communicates, and not shying away from that, which is something we experience all the time in like institutional or nonprofit like clinical space. And those spaces for me personally become void of spirit. So that's like why we like, it's like, let's paint all these walls. Let's ask the kids what they want to paint about. If they want to, they, you know, like they want to, you know, that's kind of what I mean.
And with that, thank you. DonChristian and Nene, we're gonna give you a round of applause. Say thank you, we love you, you're so great in the comments. Thank you so much for joining us at the last Ujima Wednesdays of our Time Making Mutual Aid series. Next month, we're actually gonna get started on Abolition Summer, so stay tuned for that. I'm gonna end the recording now. Goodbye, YouTube.